It's the Side Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Nick Testoni. This is Joe Briner. It is Saturday, September 24th. Joe, we got some 2-0 teams after a nice comeback.
Stephon Diggs.
Like yourself, we got some 1-1 teams, and then we got some 0-2 teams like myself. And guess what? It was a big week as far as trade goes. People are panicking. A lot of players on the move, including some players headed back to where they originally started. But I digress. We're headed into week 3. How you feeling, Joe, after that big comeback?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Yes, I said Stephon Diggs obviously put up 46, I believe, in our league, and I was chasing 40 points against Sam Smith. That was obviously huge. Put me to 2-0 on the season. Won't talk about that too much more, but when we get into this news and notes here, we are going to talk about a lot of your guys, and I know that.
Oh, I know. Look at
we already mentioned
right
it. I know that we're the opposite here, 0-2, 2-0 so far, but it's week 3. There's a lot of season left, and we're going to see what happens in the future here.
Quick note: we are recording on Thursday, so it's
a little
not
earlier.
Yeah, because of scheduling conflict on Friday, so we won't have the Thursday night recap, but that's okay. We will still get you your Sunday preview and Lurs picks and all that nonsense. But let's get into the news, Joe.
Let's do it.
All right, well, here's a couple of good newses for some good fantasy players, especially players on my team. Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift are back at practice. Swift played last week, but it looks like he's going to get back more into a heavier snap count this week. And Alvin Kamara was obviously missed week 2 game. He was back at practice in full, so he should be good to go in his matchup. Very good matchup against the Carolina Panthers in week 3. Also, Dalton Schultz limited. I don't think it looks very good. If you care about projections, he has a 0 projection. I did have to pivot and pick someone up. Yeah, Dalton Schultz. They said it was the same as Zeke's injury last year, where he did play through that, but there was some of that explosiveness gone. I don't know how much that really, because they're obviously different positions, right? Like Schultz is not really. He's running routes that are 10 to 15 yards and kind of sitting in the zone, where Zeke is explosive, making cuts. So I don't know what you think of that, but Schultz, I think gives some time off. I think he can come back and still be an effective tight end.
I don't think he's going to play this week, but if it is similar to the Zeke injury where he is able to play on like this injury, it's kind of just a pain tolerance sort of deal. I do think that he still should be pretty good, considering like what you mentioned. Like Zeke is obviously a running back. He's someone getting the ball in the backfield and having to make something happen on his own. But Dalton Schultz, as long as he can find opening in like zone coverages and the shorter type of routes that he's running, he should still be good for fantasy, I think.
George Kittle, expected back for week 3. I saw this and you seem pretty happy. You want to talk about George Kittle at
all? I just think it's good for Jimmy G and the 49ers as a whole to have George Kittle back. I actually don't have any shares of George Kittle throughout my leagues. I know we're going to talk about George Kittle in a little bit when we get into our trade talk from our league. But Kittle coming back didn't excite me as much with Trey Lance as the quarterback. So having Jimmy G there does make it a lot more exciting. So I'm interested to see what happens with George Kittle coming back.
Yeah, he missed the first 2 weeks. I believe he got injured that Monday before week 1 with the groin. He's back to practicing. Hopefully Kittle is back.
And on a side note, on a personal level, I hope Kittle comes back because I hope he takes away just a little bit of Debo at least. And I am going to be playing Debo this week. So that's the selfish side of it too.
Understandable. Michael Gallup expected to play Monday night, barring any setback. This is good for Dallas, considering right now with Cooper Rush, you probably want to give him as many weapons as you can. Gallup's an ACL guy from late last year, isn't he?
Yes, and it's interesting because, Noah Brown had a lot of fantasy implications with Cooper Rush, and obviously CD had a better week 2 than he did week 1 with Dak. So, Cooper Rush now 2-0 in his career as a starting quarterback. It's interesting to see. I'm hoping Gallup plays a Monday night so we can really see what kind of happens with that passing work, and just really the Cowboys offense as a whole is something that you have to keep an eye on with a lot of changes with the quarterback. And now Gallup coming back, hoping to see if Gallup and CD can both be like used properly with Cooper Rush.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think you can start him right away, but definitely someone who should be rostered. As far as, I mean, I would think Gallup's owned in a lot of leagues and maybe IR spot, but if not, I guess go pick him up. I have him in a league where I've just had him sitting on the bench because there's no IR spot, but I've just been kind of sitting on him because he does, especially, I don't think they believe Dak to be gone for a significant amount of time. I think Dak could be back within like 2 to 3 weeks.
He still hasn't been put on the IR. And I mean, Gallup got paid last year. Amari Cooper did not. Amari Cooper got sent away. So, I mean, clearly he was the guy that they wanted to keep on the roster and ride with Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. So, interested to see what happens on Monday night. Hopefully he does play.
If Gallup does come back, though, Noah Brown, you think just done, flashing the
bin? I mean, if Gallup's playing, I know Noah Brown is probably on a lot of waivers. He might have gotten picked up in this last little waiver run. But I don't see how you can play Noah Brown considering Gallup will be, if he does play.
All right, I'm going to run through 3 names right here. You tell me if you think they're playing or not this week. Michael Pittman, they said he's put in practice.
I say yes.
I say yes as well. Keenan Allen, quote unquote, has got a shot.
I say no, actually.
I also think no. There's just something about that. And then James Conner day to day.
I say yes to James Conner, considering the team did come out and say that it wasn't this major injury, and he went to practice immediately after. I believe most teams have like Monday off when they have the Sunday game, and then Tuesday's kind of an easier day, and then Wednesday's that first day that you want to see your players practicing if they have an injury or at least getting limited in.
I don't think he practiced Wednesday. He did like maybe drills, but I don't think he was considered.
Okay, well...
but Thursday he did practice.
I thought that I saw limited on Wednesday. I'm not certain of that. Right. But either way, at least Thursday getting in practice time with the team is a big deal. And Keenan Allen is still doing individual work, I believe, as well. So that's not a good sign at all.
Yeah, I don't... for James Conner, I think he does play. I don't know. I think he's on a limited workload, not a full snap count for him. And then Justin Herbert... He's been limited. He's been feeling better. He's been doing some throwing for the last couple days. I think he plays. I mean,
I think so too, just because he did have the extra like 4 days because they played on Thursday.
So
I mean, having Friday, Saturday, has really, an extra 3 days.
Really interesting point I heard on a podcast earlier today. Jason Moore from the Fantasy Footballer said the line for that game, I believe it's Jacksonville and the Chargers, is still Jacksonville +7. That line is not like that if Herbert's not quarterbacking. So if Vegas sees that, then maybe something to look at.
And also, I'm just checking this out. James Conner did practice Wednesday and is, quote, day-to-day. So he did get a limited practice in on Wednesday, which is a good sign considering they were saying that it's not like this major injury. But I don't see him getting a full workload, kind of like what you said. So my guess would be Williams, Benjamin, and James Conner all would probably get a little bit of work and kind of just be a gross backfield against the Rams.
Hey, before we that does wrap up the news, but I do have some breaking news.
Let's do it.
Interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
All right, so not huge as far as fantasy concerned, but you know he's a big name and he's for my Ravens. Guess who's joining the Baltimore Ravens?
I saw this, but I'm going to let you break it anyways.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yes,
indeed. We get a little help on the end, so I'll take it. That's your breaking news. Nothing else.
Maybe he'll get picked up. We do IDPs in this league. Maybe he'll get picked up. You know,
Justin Houston's looked good, so we're
JPP
just collecting.
Was a big part of the Bucs Super Bowl run on the defensive side. So you never know.
Doesn't have all his fingers, but that's okay. Joe, you want to do the Monday Night Football recap real quick?
Yeah, for sure. We got a double Monday night recap.
Yeah, that sucked, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Bills-Titans game for obvious reasons, but having 2 games on, having to do laptop and TV.
I brought a second TV down.
Well, the thing was, my problem, I was streaming one of them and watching one of them live on TV, and they both had the scores up in the top left corner.
Yeah.
So I continued to see what was happening on one of the games before the other one. So I didn't appreciate that. I would rather have one game start at like 6 o'clock and the other game start at like 8:30 or something like that. It would have been a lot better.
I feel like they've done that in the past. I don't know why
I'd rather see a doubleheader than like a back-to-back game like that.
Yeah.
or a game that's like overlapping. Excuse me.
But both games pretty much blowouts. I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure.
the good thing was you didn't have to watch the second half of the Titans and Bills game really.
Yeah, that's when
Um,
I did focus on the other game. That's exactly what I did.
big fantasy days for those teams that won. Bills, obviously, Allen Diggs. Did anyone really get into the act besides those two?
Not really. I mean, Derrick Henry scored a touchdown early, but
We'll
was
talk
still
about Derrick
shut
Henry
down.
later.
Yeah,
Um,
because it's a little scary, but
Malik
Derrick
Willis got a
Henry,
little run.
yes, he did. In the passing game, Treylon Burks actually led the way with 6 targets, 4 catches for 47 yards. Robert Woods was 4 for 39, so not a whole lot there. The passing game wasn't there. Derrick Henry 13 for 25 and a touchdown. That's gross. Passing game, Gabriel Davis did not play for the Bills, so
No.
I think that shows that even without Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs can go 12 for 148 and 3 touchdowns. He just took over this game. Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs had no problem, and that led to James Cook like leading
Yeah,
the
he got a
way
little
in the
run
yeah,
later.
he was 11 for 53. So you can't really take too much of that into account in the running game because they were up so much. I think they're letting James Cook kind of like get his feet wet a little bit because I know that he did fumble his first ever carry and he hasn't really seemed to have gotten any runs since that. So it was good to see him get out there, but he didn't really excite and the game was kind of
No.
over.
I've dropped him. I just don't think you can roster
Yeah.
him right now unless I mean the only thing he's going to give you is some garbage time. Which there might be a fair amount of garbage time in Bills games this year, but nothing you can really uh bank on, I'd say. And then with the Vikings and the Eagles, it looked good early, but the Vikings just couldn't do anything against that Philadelphia secondary. Darius
Yeah.
Slay, a huge game. Justin Jefferson was kind of shut down. And
Yeah. I
Adam
mean, he had
Thielen,
12
dude.
targets. He had 12 targets, but only 6 catches. So,
Adam Thielen, dude. Oh, he is. I'll spoil something for you. There might be a team name change coming in this league soon
yeah, that would not
because
surprise me considering he's
Adam
not in his starting lineup anymore.
Adam Thielen is. I mean, I guess he actually ended up with like 5 catches all late.
4 for 52. But I don't think
Yeah,
anybody's hooked on a Thielen anymore.
no, he was not there for pretty much the entirety of the first 3 quarters. I will say Irv Smith, he had a really bad drop, but Irv Smith is, I mean, I think he's becoming a part of that passing offense right
Yeah, that
now.
was good to see. Dude, if he just catches that ball, his fantasy output is double what it was, too, which is crazy. And also on the Vikings offense, Dalvin Cook. I mean, they were down early, so the running game was not there, only 6 for 17. And I mean, he had 4 for 19 in the air, so that's obviously good to see. Dalvin Cook is going to get his 3 to 5 catches a game usually, but golly, Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry, both these Monday night big name running backs, have not done anything so far this year.
On the Philly side, Jalen Hurts was a superstar. AJ Brown did catch some balls, but Devonta Smith, after a gooser in week 1, looked really good, didn't you,
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, and so did Dallas Goedert. I mean, but Devonta
Yeah.
Smith, I think that they made a point to get him involved after putting up 0 week 1. I mean, I think that they know that AJ Brown is obviously the elite wide receiver on this team, but they know that defenses are going to key in on that. So they got Devonta Smith involved. I think he was 7 for 80. Yeah, 7 for 80 on 7 targets. So I mean, week 1 he goes 4 targets, 0 catches. Week 2 he's perfect on his connection with Jalen Hurts, 7 for 7. Um, Dallas Goedert also involved, 5 for 82. That's a great day for a mid-round tight end like that. Miles Sanders led the way, 17 for 80 on the ground. He didn't find the end zone this time, but he's looking good, I'm gonna be honest. And
Yeah,
he's
he
getting the
does.
ball. And if this offense is as like prolific as they have been showing, I mean, Miles Sanders is going to be a great running back, I think. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is going to like kind of steal some red zone carries, but I mean, Miles Sanders is looking like a good running back that you got late that can be a decent RB2 or even a great flex play.
2 things. One, I didn't realize it was the Jalen Rieger revenge game. 1 catch for 7 yards.
Yes.
That's huge.
He also had a
And
rushing attempt.
oh wow. And also, is Devonta Smith back in starting lineups for you?
That's a tough one.
Flex?
I think he could be a flex. I think I would start him as a flex if needed. I would love to have. I mean, I don't know if you want to think of any guys off the fly of who you would start over like comparison, but I would love to not play him if possible, considering that is a run first offense, and he's already the second, if not third option if you count Goddard.
Hunter Renfro or Devonta Smith?
Devonta
That's
Smith.
I feel like that's a okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
Devonta
that's
Smith.
kind of close.
No, that is Devonta Smith for me.
I'm trying to think of like other flexes in the league, uh, or anyone that's that caliber where it's like a third option. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in Buffalo. All right, Allen Robinson or Devonta Smith.
Allen Robinson, for
Okay.
sure.
All right. That was Monday night recap.
Yeah.
Um, oh
There's
boy.
some home league trades to get into. Some juicy ones.
Yeah. Big week of trade to the sound.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
All right. Well, so a lot of trades going on. And don't get me wrong. I was shopping this week.
There's a lot of talk going
overreact.
on. A lot of
You don't want to
talk.
overreact, but I was shopping, but there was just too much going on to a point where I kind of shut it down. I really zeroed in on one thing that I won't really reveal. His name is on this list.
You
It's
could, though, if you wanted to.
Huh?
You
Yeah,
could,
but I
though,
don't
if you
want to be
wanted
that
to.
guy. So it didn't happen. That guy ended up making a trade anyways, and he actually got a better deal. But first trade, a lot of names in here. Jackson, he trades away Mark Andrews, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Alexander Madison. By the way, he holds Alexander Madison in a threshold that is so much greater than what he actually is worth.
I mean, I was in a little bit of talks with Jackson. Alexander Madison was brought up. And my explanation of Alexander Madison is this. He's going to be great for those 2 weeks that Dalvin Cook is hurt. But the other 14, 15 weeks,
It's not even guaranteed
he's just
he's great
clogging
that
a
week.
roster spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not guaranteed, but in the past when he has been called upon, he has delivered for fantasy. But he's just he just clogs your roster spot of somebody that does not have any potential for fantasy points unless of an injury. So I don't love to have those kind of guys on my roster, but continue.
Yeah, so let me read the whole thing this time. So Jackson trades Mark Andrews, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Alex Madison to Bryce, and Bryce sends back Derrick Henry and George Kittle. I mean, you're pretty much just swapping tight ends here. I think Andrews is probably more valuable, so you're downgrading a tight end and you're buying low on Derrick Henry, but you're paying, and it's weird because you're buying low on Derrick Henry, but you're on the other side you're buying high on Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, so
it's like an inverse each side, right? Because Kittle you're buying low on, Andrews you're buying high, Edwards-Helaire you're buying high.
Yeah, I think what needs to be brought up in this is a little bit of their rosters because Bryce, his now running back is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, obviously, and his other running back is Antonio Gibson. So I do kind of fault him willing to give up Derrick Henry in that situation because Antonio Gibson, we obviously know that Brian Robinson will be coming back at some point in the near future, and we don't know if Gibson is going to be able to hold that value. On the flip side, Bryce does have Patrick Mahomes and Juju Smith-Schuster in his lineup already. Don't get me wrong, the Chiefs are going to score points, but having 3 Chiefs in your starting lineup is also not ideal.
I don't think Juju is getting started anytime. Is Juju in his starting lineup still?
Yes, he is. He's his wide receiver 2. I think he's actually got Tyler Higbee as his flex right now. He's running a double tight end strategy here. With
that's
Mark
not
Andrews.
looking good.
Mike Evans is suspended on his bench, so that does make show a reason. But I think he might be starting Higbee over Juju anyway. So
look, Bryce is an 0-2 team, so keep that in because you start losing a couple games, you get a little emotional about stuff.
Yeah.
So not saying it's whatever, but on Jackson's side, right, he gets Henry to pair with
Josh Jacobs in the
Josh
backfield.
Jacobs. I mean, that's an upgrade, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, though. Jackson, he's really who did he trade last week? He's kind of trading away wide receiver depth.
He traded away DJ Moore the week before.
Yeah. I mean, he's got AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson. Those are the guys. So that's panned out nicely. And now he's got Kittle, but I thought Andrews was a nice touch on here. I mean, I don't think you can really make it a.
Obviously, he gets Derrick Henry in this, which is a big deal. And George Kittle, like I mentioned, I think should be very good with Jimmy G. But Derrick Henry, and I even told Jackson this, Derrick Henry does scare me this year.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
does.
seeing what happened not against the Bills. The Bills, okay, like he got the ball like 13 times for 20 some yards, but what Derrick Henry did against the Giants is what scares me. And I know that the Giants have improved, but the game script was Derrick Henry. He was the game script against the Giants, and he was still not able to get it done. I'm not saying he's lost that pep in his step, but I'm also saying it seems like he might have lost that pep in his step. So Derrick Henry, I do worry a little bit.
He's gonna get the touches, no doubt, but I mean, you're seeing when they're down, he's not being used. It's Hilliard.
Yeah.
Like they're just not gonna bring him to catch
They
footballs, and
don't they don't not pass him the ball, and it's crazy.
he'll still get 20 to 25 touches a game, but the yards are just not there. I think he's kind of touchdown dependent at this point, and he's going to
Yeah.
score. He will score, but it's not the Derrick Henry of the last 2 years. That trade, I think you're kind of out on the book to see what happens. Just
Hmm.
because there's a lot of some guys that are overperforming and some guys who are underperforming. Next trade, this one involves you, so let me take
Yep. You got
it.
it.
My co-host Joey Briner sends Joe Mixon, Brandon Cooks, and Joshua Palmer to Derek for Devontae Adams, Ezekiel Elliott, and Naheem Hines. Brandon Cooks is being traded for the second time.
Brandon Cooks,
He
that
was
poor
traded
guy.
to Joey about a week ago, and now
I
he's being
love
traded
Brandon Cooks
back.
though.
Uh, you all right? So the way I look at this is Derek loves to trade. I think that's just I even said to someone, I said Jackson, I said this to Jake Wills, Jackson, Derek, and Sam Smith. Funny enough, they're involved in all three of these. They
I'd
just
love to
like to
trade
trade.
too. I'm not gonna lie.
They just like to trade. Now, so here's the one thing I'll say. You're getting Devontae Adams, and you probably have the best wide receiver duo at this point.
Yeah.
But I look at your running back room, and do you get a little nervous looking at that?
Oh, of course I do. Um, I mean, obviously now I just gained Ezekiel Elliott. My other guys are Daryl Henderson, J.K. Dobbins, Chase Edmonds. I have a lot of these guys that are right on that little middle area that you don't love, but you also don't hate.
Yeah.
Like you definitely don't get excited to put them in your starting lineup. I mean, I have that excitement for J.K. Dobbins in the future, and I really hope that that pays off because that would be huge for my team if he does. But but yeah, I mean, I've kind of decided that I'm willing to dive into that wide receiver heavy lineup, and I have a nice group of 4 or 5 guys that could be starting running backs on my team that you don't love to put in your lineup, but you can start in a pinch. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my strategy. Obviously, Cortland Sutton is my flex, my wide receiver 3. Um, yeah, I mean, just from my point of view, I felt like it was a good time after Devontae Adams kind of having a little rough day against Arizona that I was willing to kind of jump the gun here with Joe Mixon, Brandon Cooks was kind of, and obviously Joshua Palmer as well for the Devontae Adams, Ezekiel Elliott. I looked into his upcoming schedule, a lot of NFC East matchups, as well as some easier matchups as well that I can get into. And that's kind of what helped me push me over the edge to be willing to do this.
Here's the thing. I saw this. I can't find it right now on Twitter, but I saw it the other day. I think if you look at the top 20 fantasy players right now, not a single one's a running back,
Yeah. And
which is
that's what I told Soup actually. Talked to Soup that this is not a running back league anymore. And I've adopted it.
I think it changes a little bit. You can't have nobody.
Yeah,
Uh,
I know.
but
But
like
I do
that's
think that Ezekiel Elliott will be better than what is happening so far.
well, I like to think Alvin Kamara and DeAndre Swift to be better than what's happening right now, but
They
that's
will.
okay.
They will.
Yeah, so that's that trade on Derek's side, right? Like he gets Mixon, which I
He
get
really
to play
wanted
him.
he really wanted a running back. And yeah, this is a bad week for you with that trade happening because he is getting Mixon against the Jets.
Yeah, and he's getting
So
Cooks against the Bears.
yeah.
It's a great time.
So I'm
Uh
sorry for that. But I know Derek was very, very adamant about wanting Joe Mixon and wanting like one of those top tier running backs because he didn't have any because he went wide receiver tight end early in the draft. And so we kind of did a small little switch in how
yeah,
our rosters are constructed.
yeah, they did. All right, so on to the next trade. Sam Smith sends Aaron Jones, Elijah Moore, and Allen Robinson for Brees Hall, Christian Kirk, and Jahan Dotson. This is a terrible deal, if you ask me. This is a terrible. I mean,
Go ahead.
maybe
Go ahead.
not.
Spill your thoughts.
All right, so I'll spoil. I was in talks with Andy for a trade, and I thought it was a pretty fair one. But I understand why he didn't do it with me because this is a fleece. If you look at Andy's roster, his top 3 wide receivers are Keenan Allen, Jalen Waddle, and Michael Pittman. And he
Yep.
didn't have to give up any of those three to get Aaron Jones.
Yep. I put that in our group chat that he was able to give up his bench for multiple starters in
For
Sam's
an
lineup.
RB1. I mean,
Yeah.
Aaron Jones is not his ceiling because of the sharing the backfield. Like he's not the Aaron Jones of
I
like
think his floor has dropped off from what it used to be, considering he's
yeah,
sharing
but
with
he's
AJ
always
Dillon
going to
now.
be a safe RB2 at the worst. Any week. So I mean, it's just it's crazy. I don't. I mean, I watched that trade and I just went, like I like Christian Kirk. I actually like all three players, but like I don't know. You go 3 for 3 with that, and like I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. It's just you're taking a chance on
I
three guys.
so I've obviously talked to both of them since, and I think that Andy obviously I believe got the better end of this. But on the flip side, Sam they were both kind of in a strange situation where they were able to give up these players that are good, but they didn't 100% need them on their lineup on their starting lineup. So like Sam, for example, has obviously McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, and he struggled at wide receiver. So he was able to pick up a lower end running back that obviously doesn't equal Aaron Jones, while able to get guys that are ascending in the league. Obviously, Christian Kirk is ascending in a fantasy way. He's been in the league for a while, but ascending fantasy wise with the new scheme with Jacksonville, he's a top 12 wide receiver right now, I believe, in PPR formats. Jahan Dotson, I don't know if I love that because he's found the end zone, and that's kind of been why he's been good for fantasy so far.
Did you see
So
my sits of the week?
I don't love that part. I did. We will say Jahan Dotson again. But Andy now gets to pair Aaron Jones with Jonathan Taylor, and he did not lose any starting depth. And I think Andy just kind of accepted Elijah Moore and Allen Robinson. I know out of the wide receiver Sam was offering, he wanted Robinson. I don't think he cares about Elijah Moore at all, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops him at some
He tried
point.
to get rid of it. Yeah, he didn't care about Elijah Moore in the slightest.
So, I mean, I don't believe any of these trades really frustrate me because if you look at their roster construction, but I do think that Sam slightly was shopping around a lot to the point where he might have settled a little bit and could have gotten a better wide receiver pairing.
One of those three for like make it a 3 for 2. And I think I mean, if you're Andy, would you have given up? Because then you can keep Kirk. Like I think Kirk fits better as a flex on his team than he does as a primary wide receiver for Smitty's team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. Maybe you take Keenan Allen just because of the injury dip, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or Pittman. I don't know. One of them.
Yeah,
I think you got to get one of them if you're giving up Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's
on better offenses. Like I get Christian Kirk has been very good, but like at the end of the day, do we think Jacksonville might win that division because that division stinks.
Yeah, no.
But do we think Jacksonville is going to be in high scoring games for the rest of the year?
No, I don't at least.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Colts are, but would you rather have, do you think like the Pittman or Kirk, right?
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I'm hearing you. Obviously, I'm with Pittman over Kirk. I'm hearing you. But the reason that I'm not completely against it, although I do not love it.
I vote to up. I mean, you make the trade, you make the trade. I just don't.
There were some vetoes too.
If it was me, I would not have. If I'm making that deal, which it makes sense to make that deal, I need one of those three and not Kirk.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
I mean, there was definitely a lot of talk in our group chat about all of these trades because they were all big name people. Well, they were all big name people involved in these trades. So I'm sure everybody has their opinion in our league, and the people involved accepted it. So there's nothing we can do. There was a few vetoes on the Sam and Andy trade. I did vote to uphold, but there was a couple of veto votes. I'm not sure who they were, but I mean, those are the three trades that we had throughout our home league. And like we said last week, we'll see kind of what happens with these changes, see who goes off, see who busts, and see what happens in these matchups.
All right. Do you want to get in our starts and sits of the week?
Yes. Week 3 starts and sits.
You can go.
I can go ahead.
Yeah.
So my 2 starts of the week are David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears, obviously, and Mike Williams, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. And I want to put a little caveat on Mike Williams. Justin Herbert doesn't start. Mike Williams isn't my start of the week. I think that obviously goes without saying. And if Justin Herbert is not starting, it'll be a David Montgomery show. And I'm playing against Andrew Atkins, who has David Montgomery. So perfect, right? But Montgomery playing against the Houston Texans, I just thought he looked great against Green Bay. And that's honestly, I'm riding with that because he was getting the ball. Even while they were down, they were still handing the ball to David Montgomery, 15 for 122. I mean, he even put 2 for 14 in the air, which isn't anything that's going to get you excited, but 15 for 122. Love to see that. He just looked like he was just running with some serious power. And Mike Williams, I know the Chargers are playing the Jags. The Jags defense, although they did just stop the Colts did not have they didn't have Michael Pittman or Alex Pierce. Matt Ryan looked like a dumpster fire. Obviously, they were able to focus on the run game, which is why I think that they were able to actually shut Jonathan Taylor down. And the Colts just have the Jaguars have the Colts number in a very strange way. So I don't see that being the case against the Chargers. And as long as Justin Herbert is starting, I think Mike Williams, especially if Keenan Allen doesn't play as well, there's a lot of moving pieces here. But if Keenan Allen's out, Justin Herbert's in, Mike Williams to the moon.
Yeah, I agree with that stuff. So my starts, I got Devonta Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles. He finally has woken up and he's playing a Commanders defense that has it's not been great against the pass.
That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously AJ Brown is the big guy here, but with Smith finally like kind of clicking, and obviously Smith's been in the offense longer than Brown. I think he has a big day. I think he can find the end zone. Philly, I just feel like will throw all over Washington. Like, look at the past weeks. In week 1, Christian Kirk with Jacksonville, and then last week, Amon-Ra St. Brown, even Josh Reynolds found the end zone. So I think it's going to be a pretty good day from Devonta Smith. I also got Brandon Cooks on here. Houston, he had a lot of targets last week.
Yeah.
And like you just said, on the opposite end, because you have Montgomery, the Bears, I mean, if you break down their 2 games, you have like the water game, right? And then you have Green Bay, and like there's not one guy that's standing out in Green Bay, but Rodgers was able to move the football through the air. I know they ran it a lot, but that's kind of a different offense. Brandon Cooks, I think, is good enough to beat this secondary in Chicago and should have a big day. My sits, any Dolphins running back. You just can't start. You can't start any of them, especially against Buffalo, who, I mean, not only is Buffalo stopping the run, but Buffalo is scoring so much that you can't run the football. You have to throw. This game will be super interesting because of Waddle and Tyreek, but what Dolphins running back can you start? I mean, if you had to, I guess it'd be Edmonds, but just do not start our Dolphins running back. And then my other sit is Jahan Dotson. So let me explain this.
Recently traded.
Yeah, let me explain this real quick. And I was just looking at the matchups, and they're playing Philly. Look at that Philly secondary that's been great. Week 1, obviously, the Detroit does move the ball through the air, but last week you saw, a good Minnesota offense get kind of shut down. Like they moved it, but they could not score. And here's the thing: if you look at the 3 weapons they have in Washington, who would you say their most talented wide receiver is?
Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, so take him off the books. Now you have Dotson and
Curtis
Samuel. Samuel just brings that other factor of rushing the football. So I lean towards the rookie who's been a little touchdown dependent early to have a bad week.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely get behind that. My 2 sits of the week are Jeff Wilson and Damian Harris. Jeff Wilson here, I do think that he's going to get the majority of the work in the running game, but I think that with George Kittle coming back, hopefully, having Jimmy G in the offense is going to allow for a little more passing work in this game. And they are playing against Denver, who is the number 1 rushing defense so far this year. So I don't love the situation there for that game. And I honestly do think that this is going to be the game that Denver shows up and actually comes and has the offense that we are expecting and just the overall team that we are expecting this year. I do see a good game ahead for Denver this week. So that would eliminate kind of the running game in San Francisco, but we'll see. Damian Harris is my other sit of the week. I know that they are playing the Ravens, and you mentioned any Dolphins running back, and neither Dolphins running back was able to put up a good day against the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens will get ahead early. Damian Harris is not the pass-catching running back in New England, so I do not see Damian Harris getting the 15 for 80 and a touchdown that he would get in a neutral game script like he did against the Steelers. I see them being behind and might be a more Ramondre Stevenson catching passes out of the backfield kind of week. So Jeff Wilson, Damian Harris, my 2 sits of the week.
That was starts and sits of the week. Let's hit a quick break, and then when we come back, we will do the Sunday preview.